right, Shalom. First and foremost, like give all praises and glory and honor to you. Heavenly Father, the true names like Yahweh, and the Son begat the Son, Bahashem, and then Mashiach Kabashah. Those are the true names in ancient Paleo Hebrew, the last one Kadash of the time, and I say Barakah to the elders and apostles, Ma'akwaf, and I say Shalom. So out here, once again, on the highways and hedges, the chief place of concourse on this May the 4th, 2025, on this Sunday afternoon, and as always, we thank the Heavenly Father Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Kabashah, as always, for giving us the opportunity to come out here and do so, lifting up the names of Yahweh Yahshua, and the Wadi Haba Shemal Shafna, and the Wadi Haba Shemal Shafna, campus about with the holy angels, and every time we out here teaching the names of Yahweh Yahshua, right along with the elders and apostles for Akim, and say the Wadi Haba Shemal Shafna. I'm going to bring out that Ecclesiasticus 39 verse 1 as we continue occupying prophecies to the best of our ability. It's kind of windy out here today. Yeah, kind of windy out here today. This Ecclesiasticus study Salakia. This the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 39. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 verse 1. It says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High Yahweh, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all ancient and be occupying prophecies. Right, so we're going to continue to occupy in prophecies, and that's what we're doing out here, sounding alarm and prophesying against great countries and great kingdoms of war, evil, and pestilence. Because these are the modern day biblical signs and signs of times that we're going to be seeing these modern day biblical signs and signs of times, and we're going to continue to occupy in prophecies as being watchmen. You know, like it says Isaiah 62 verse 6 to verse 7. So I'm gonna bring out some news article that's what's been going on. As we've been seeing, these tensions have been heating up between, you know, the Houthi rebels and the pro-Iranian group, which is the over there in Yemen, which is fully controlled by them over there in Yemen, which is the Houthi rebels, which is a pro-Iranian group. I believe you had what's his name, Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, he mentioned that he was going to vow to revenge on those Houthi rebels because they have an airstrike over there in those airport area in that region. You know, you've been having the Houthi rebels using heavy airstrikes, you know, against those Israel defense forces over there in central Israel, over there in southern Israel, northern Israel, and over there in Tel Aviv as well too. And they recently hit these airports as well too, even though they intercept some of those missiles. But you had the Benjamin Netanyahu, his cabinet, they have approved about using a revenge, a response attack against those Houthi rebels. So this is a sign of wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And we're going to be seeing the tensions rise up between, you know, all those pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel defense force over there in the Red Sea, over there in the Gulf of Eden, and over there in the Arabian Sea. And we see what's taking place over there in the borders of Syria, Lebanon, Gaza Strip, West Bank, Pakistan territory. So it's going to be seeing increasing back and forth escalation heating up between those nations. You know, I just want to add a side note that in this situation between India and Pakistan, those been heating up. And I've been checking that website. It's called WION. And you've been having, I believe it's India or Pakistan, continue to violate the ceasefire because they continue to pressure the India-Pakistan escalation. That's only going to continue to heat up ever since 2 weeks ago. You had an incident that took place over there in Kashmir of India. So we're going to be seeing more and more nation should rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. It's going to build up to the Third World War, which we're seeing increasing, like it says in the book of Matthew 24 verse 6 to verse 7. So this is a prime example of us continuing to be on our watch, occupying the prophecies, prophesying against great countries and great kingdoms of war, evil, and pestilence. And that's what we're seeing in our world. So especially these modern day wars are increasing between these nations. And this is what we're out here forecasting and prophesying about, you know, these war, evil, and pestilence, and the building up of this Third World War, as I mentioned before. So yeah, I'm going to go to the Jerusalem Post, and Shalom to the occupants on the comment board. Hey, how about Shema Shabbat, Rock about you, your household, and I say Shalom. let's get to that news article. Yeah, this is a news article. It says as of May the 4th, 2025, it reads from the Jerusalem Post. This is a developing story, which is so we so used to accustomed to. It says U.S. strike the Houthi targets in Yemen. Report. It says the U.S. carried out strikes on the Houthi targets in Yemen on Sunday night, according to the local reports. Right, because you've been having increasing throughout, almost for about a whole year now. Especially over there in the Red Sea, because you've been having the United States been deploying military submarine ships over there, and like the USS ships over there that originally been deployed once again from last year all the way to now. And then you've been having the Houthi rebels been using airstrikes against them as well too. And then the United States, they've been using their airstrikes against the Houthi rebels. So we're going to see escalation heating up on both sides. Especially the military alliance of the Great Britain and the United States and the Israel Defense Force. They are going to continue to air campaign airstrikes against those Houthi rebels, which is fully controlled by them over there in Yemen. So we're going to continue to see that escalate, especially over there in the Red Sea. We're still going to have escalation heating up between those nations over there. All those pro-Iranian groups, their main target is going to be the United States armies and the Israel Defense Force. So that's going to build up to the World War III. So we're seeing signs of it. Once again, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So we see more increasing signs of it. This is a news article like I just mentioned. This is from the Jerusalem Post as of May the 4th, 2025 reads. It says Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will respond to the Houthi attack. It says Israel will retaliate on the Houthi missile strike on the Ben Gurion airport on Sunday. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wrote in a post next Twitter. It says later in the day, adding that it will do so in the time and a place convenient to it. Right, because the Benjamin Netanyahu cabinet, they recently approved that response attack that they have approved already, so they can give it a go ahead to launch more airstrikes against those pro-Iranian groups, which the Houthi rebels, like I mentioned before. And that goes into that Luke 21 verse 25 of the distress of nations with perplexed Caesar is warned because of the increase of seditions, uprisings, uproars through the war, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. This is all going to accommodate to the building up of the Third World War, especially over there in Western Asia. Like I said, Joel, the third chapter. But continuing on, continuing on. It says the IDF, which is the Israel Defense Force, strikes over 100 groups, targets in Gaza over the weekend, right? Because you've been having those escalations heating up between, the resistance of Hamas, which is a pro-Iranian group, and the pro-Iranian groups throughout the whole region going against the Israel Defense Force throughout the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the Palestinian territory. So those are increasing hot zone areas, especially over there in Syria as of late. I believe the Israel Defense Force did another airstrike over there in Damascus over there in Syria and sending that message because you had those escalations took place, I would say like a couple of days ago, and then you had a protest over there as well too, of that Jewish community, if I'm not mistaken. Because Israel Defense Force sent their warning over there to those Syrian army groups. Because this do make sense because you've been having the Syrian armies going against the Israel Defense Force, quite a while, and they've been increasing. Just like it says, Isaiah 17 verse 1, Damascus shall be taken away from being a city, and it shall be its ruin. Even though they're trying to bounce back, but you're still going to have heavy escalations heating up, the on and on proxy wars between the nations over there, different organizations and factions and armies over there in the area, and mostly primarily the Syrian armies, the pro-Iranian groups, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, all together going against the Israel Defense Force. But you're still going to have more military being deployed over there in the Golan Heights, over there throughout that whole region of West Bank, especially over there in Syria, which the Syrian army recently just called out the Israel Defense Force for continuing to deploy more troops over there in the area. So that's only going to build up more and more escalation between those cross-border conflicts, between the borders of Syria, Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, over there in Israel. So those, especially over the borders of Israel and Syria, those are the main hot areas over there in the area. So that's only going to build up more and more to the Third World War. Yeah, this says U.S. carried out strikes against the Houthi targets in Yemen. So I'm going to the Western Asia. Y'all see more news articles of that. It says Iran. It says Iran reveals. I'm gonna rank this in this article as well too. Like I mentioned again numerous times, you had you had Iran. That's why we've been seeing the tension between Iran and Israel been heating up, and then that's why you've been having the representation from the Israel Defense Force. Because you've been having talks with the United States and Iran to see if they can come to some type of agreement with this nuclear deal. But you've been having the Israel Defense Force trying to make sure that the United States doesn't accept any type of deal. He wants them to automatically reject it. So the Israel Defense Force, so they can use airstrikes against Iran. So we've been definitely seeing these tensions been heating up between Iran and Israel. I just want to add a side note to that. So this is going to build up to the Third World War. And this is a news article from the Jerusalem Post as of May the 4th, 2025. It reads, it says, Iran reveals a new missile after Netanyahu responded to the Houthis' strike report. It says, we have no hostility towards the neighboring countries. But American bases are targets. Or if we were attacked, the Iran Defense Minister, said. It says, keep this in mind. Throughout Iraq and throughout Syria, you've been having those pro-Iranian groups been targeting those Israel Defense Force. Even though they kind of calmed down a little bit because they had a ceasefire, not too long ago from last year and on into now. But you're going to see that increasing more and more. As I'm reading again, it says we have no hostility towards the neighboring countries, which they are allies. It says it makes perfect sense because you had the Iranian groups is teaming up with Syria, with Russia, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guards groups and the Dragons of Arabia. They all going to team up together going against the Israel Defense Force because that's going to be their main target. And that goes to say that in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, because Russia is going to be a guard to these nations of Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, and Turkey. Iran, India. So I meant to say Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, and Turkey. I meant to say Somalia. And this is it says we have no hostility towards the neighboring countries. And this is from Iran. It says we have no hostility towards the neighboring countries right over there in Western Asia. It says but American bases are targets. It says for as if we are attacked, Iran Defense Minister has said. It says Iran unveiled what it says was a new ballistic missile on Sunday. It says following the threats by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to pose to the Houthi missile strike that the Iranian group masters. Someone bring up that scripture. Matthew 24th chapter. So again, this is going to build up more intensity between Iran and Israel and all those pro-Iranian groups going to stay in the fissures. It's like it says in the book of Revelations 11 verse 14, the second won't pass, but the third will come quick. So we're seeing more signs of that. They're building up of the Third World War, which is World War III. Now this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. Go to the New Testament. This is Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. Red letter Yahushua speaking. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. It says, see that you be not troubled, for all these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, so we're going to be seeing these wars and rumors of wars. And that's a sign of increasing building up of Iran versus Israel and the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force, Great Britain, and the United States. So that's going to build up more and more to the Third World War. Despite the fact that the United States and Israel having nuclear, despite the fact that Iran and the United States been having nuclear talks to de-escalate tensions. But Israel Defense will say, hey, we are ready to attack Iran. That's coming from the defense. That's coming from the spokesperson of Israel Defense Force, and that was the same thing from the defense minister of over there in Iran too. So they saying the same thing towards one another. So that's only going to stir more tension between Iran and Israel and the pro-Iranian groups going against Israel Defense Force. Yeah, this is Matthew 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled for all these things, but first come to pass, but the days not yet. Right, so you're going to have the Russian-Ukraine situation, that's only going to intensify. Then you're going to have Russia versus NATO, that's only going to intensify. Then you're going to have China versus Taiwan, that's only going to intensify. You're going to have North Korea versus South Korea, Japan, the United States, that's only going to intensify. And Iran versus Israel, and all these other nuclear escalations are heating up between these nations. So these are increasing more signs that I just mentioned of more and more of these wars and rumors of wars, nation against nations, and these modern day nations against modern kingdoms going against one another. So that's going to include more seditions and more uprisings and more nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. It's only going to build up more and more of these it's only going to build up to these nuclear wars. But continuing on, Matthew 24 verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Right, that's what we said. Modern day nuclear nations against modern day nuclear nations. Modern day kingdoms against modern day kingdoms. And you're going to have a kingdom within itself being divided. And you're going to have outside of another kingdom rise against another kingdom. Just like it is, just like you're going to have a nation within itself being divided. You're going to have another nation rise against another nation. And we see this from a nuclear war perspective among these nations, which goes into ethnos. Nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And that's what we're seeing. So continuing on, this is Matthew 24 and verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right, so we've been saying these, I believe over there. So we've been, I think as of yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, because you had like some type of remote area. I believe it's like a remote area down there in Texas. It's like, I would say it was like western Texas, not too far from New Mexico or the Mexican border, if I'm not mistaken. They had like the largest earthquake ever since 1931. That was like at first they first reported as a 6.5 earthquake, but they downgraded to a 5.5 earthquake. So those was the largest earthquake ever since 1931 down there in Texas. So that shows you that we're going to be seeing these high magnitude of these earthquakes in other places. And we're going to be seeing these famines and pests and plagues, earthquakes in diverse places, nation against nations and kingdom against kingdom. Because these are modern day biblical signs and signs of time that Yahushua spoke of when he was on the scene. Now this could be related to modern times as well too. But continuing on, Salakia. Matthew 24 verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Right, so all these is the beginning of sorrows that we're going to continue to see increase in our world today. So we're living in modern day biblical signs and signs of times. And these are very important signs that we're entering into as the days progresses on. So these is just the increasing of the beginning of sorrows that Yahweh spoke of. So we're going to be seeing more signs of it. Yeah, since I mentioned that, bring up that second Hedges, the 9th chapter. Salakia. Yeah, this is the book of second Hedges. Salakia. Yeah, this is the book of second Hedges, chapter 9, verse 2. It says, then thou shalt understand, it is a very same time where in the highest will begin to visit the world which you made. Right, so the Heavenly Father is going to visit this earth with these weather-like conditions and these modern day biblical signs that he's showing us. So we're going to be seeing these earthquakes in diverse places, these famines and pests and plagues and etc. And these increasing signs that the Heavenly Father is showing us. So that's the visitation from the Heavenly Father. So this is second Hedges, chapter 9, verse 2. It says that therefore you shouldn't see earthquakes.
I told you I was going to church. I make that very clear. Every Sunday I go to church.
Second Hedges, chapter 9, verse 3. It says, therefore there should be seeing earthquakes of those people world. Right, so we're going to be seeing increasing earthquakes of those people world. So we're going to be seeing more signs of that. That's what we're seeing. So just like over there, day before yesterday, you had a 6.0 earthquake over there in Indonesia. And then you had a 2 or 3 days ago, over in off the coast of Chile in Argentina, you had a 7.5 earthquake over there in that area. I believe over there in the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage actually yesterday, once again, they got hit with another 5.0 earthquake. and that was the same area that got hit with that 7.5 earthquake off the areas of Chile and Argentina. That was a 7.5 earthquake, and then it had like four to five aftershocks of it afterwards. And that aftershock was the largest one was at 6.4 magnitude of an earthquake. So these are signs that we're going to be seeing these high magnitude of these earthquakes in diverse places. So we're going to be seeing more significant signs on that. Just like down there in that remote area in Texas, this is the largest earthquake ever since 1931 down there in western Texas. Which, even though it's a remote area, but that shows you we're going to be seeing more signs of these high magnitude of these earthquakes in diverse places. And that's more and more of the visitation from the Heavenly Father Yahweh himself. So he's going to visit this earth now, someone ever which he created, because he's a true creator in heavens and earth. This Heavenly Father Yahweh. Chapter 9, verse 3. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes upwards through the world, like those increasing earthquakes upwards through the world. And this is the book of Luke 21. This is the book of Luke 21, verse 11. It's a lot. Luke 21, verse 11. It says, a great earthquake shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilence, and precise and great sound shall be from heaven. Right, so we're going to see these modern day pestilence continue to increase. We see this cholera outbreak, this listeria outbreak, this mpox outbreak, this measles outbreak that's been taking places like Canada, here in the United States, and different parts around the world. So we're going to be seeing these different type of increasing variants of pestilence and plagues, and these modern day famines, and these modern day earthquakes in diverse places. And that's what we're seeing in our world today. In increasing fearful sights and great signs should that be from heaven. And that's from Yahweh. And I'm gonna start at verse. I'm read up two more verses. This is the book of Luke 21, verse 9. This is like a precept to Matthew's 24, verse 6 to verse 7 to verse 8. Because scripture says, through precepts I get understanding. But continue on. This is the book of Luke 21, verse 11, red letter Yahweh speaking of the Holy Scriptures. It says, but when you should hear of wars, and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, so the end is not going to be yet, because we're going to see more and more of these wars and commotions between these nations. A nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, is going to build up more and more to the third world war, and that's what we're seeing. So you're going to have these economic wars, you're going to have these trade wars, and you're going to have these nuclear wars, different type of category of wars, and we're going to see it more and more. That's why Scripture says wars and commotions, and we're seeing it like more than ever. That's what we're seeing. So we're going to have more trouble with these stuff in the past, and we're going to be in trouble. This is like it says things to come. Right, so we're seeing more increasing things to come, as it says in the blue letter Bible. Yahweh says things to come. This is Luke 21, verse 10. Then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and the kingdom against kingdom. Right, just like it says in Matthew 24, verse 7, precept today. Luke 21, verse 10. Hey, we're seeing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And that's only going to build up more and more signs of that. We're going to see it more and more. Luke 21, verse 11 reads, I'm going to read it again. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilence, and fearful sights and great signs shall be from heaven. Right, so we're going to be seeing some more increasing fearful sights and great signs shall be from heaven. That's from the visitation of Yahweh that he's showing us these signs before he makes his return. Yahweh. Now, if you get into some more news articles, the Wadi Yahweh. Yeah, this says exclusive news article. It says source to post U.S. understands. Yeah, it says U.S. understands that Israel must respond to the Houthis. Yeah, must respond to the Houthis. Because at first, since Donald Trump, like I would say, like within the last month and a half, that he's been using these heavy airstrike campaigns against the Houthi rebels. He was telling Israel to move back. They're heavy airstrikes against the offensives. Now that this news article that came out, and they're going to once again continue to use heavy airstrikes. The United States and Israel and Great Britain all three together once again. They're going to continue to do heavy airstrikes against those Houthi rebels. And so you're going to have the Houthi rebels going to continue to strike the United States Army missiles, submarine ships over there in the Red Sea. What they've been increasingly targeting. So the Houthi rebels, they're going to continue to target the Israel Defense Force or their militaries, Great Britain and the United States. They're going to target all three of them. While all three of those nations that they're opposing or their adversary, they're going to be using airstrikes against one another. So it's going to continue to be heating up over there in the Red Sea and over there in the Gulf of Eden and over there in the Arabian Sea over there in those areas. So that's only going to build up more and more to the Third World War. But definitely for sure, we still going to see Iran versus Israel. That's only going to continue to heat up, despite the fact that the United States and Iran been having nuclear talks. But ever since then, Iran versus Israel is only going to stand to heat up. In the United States, they're going to have to get involved in it as well too, because Israel and the United States, they are allies, So they're going to continue to go on against Iran and all those pro-Iranian groups over there in that area, throughout Western Asia, throughout the Red Sea, and throughout the Arabian Sea, throughout that whole area. So that's only going to build up to the Third World War, and that's what we're seeing. But continue on, Salakia. RT.com. It says Israel warns of retaliations after Houthi strikes on airport. Live updates. This is from RT.com. It says a powerful blast rocks residential building in Moscow. It says the explosion damaged the apartment block and sparked a major fire with over a dozen residents reported injured. It says India says they had two. It says India says they had cut water flow to Pakistan. Right, because we see the rising tensions. We've been seeing the rising tensions are been heating up between India and Pakistan. It says Mexico rejects Trump's troop offer. It says Berlin rejects Rubio accusations of tyranny of disguise. It says a new Ukrainian cluster assault on failed, and Chechen leader says. It says Zelensky urged world leaders ahead of Moscow's Victory Day celebration, which I believe is going to start May the 8th. And then you had, as of yesterday, or 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, you had Moscow responding of Zelensky sending threats on that Victory Day that he's going to have. And he's going to have like a 3-day ceasefire. I believe he's going to start all the way to May the 8th, all the way to May the 11th. So Zelensky been threatened that there was a nuclear strikes. So that's only going to restore more tension between the Russia-Ukraine situation. But continue on, Salakia. It says, so we're going to be seeing those tensions between India and Pakistan. It says Pakistan launched a missile deterrent amending tensions with India. It says officials have said the IW missile, which have a range of 450 kilometers, is meant to safeguard Islamabad against any aggression. It says that the Pakistan military has successfully carried out a test launch of a surface-to-surface missile called the IW missile, the weapon system that has reportedly range of 450 kilometers. It says 280 miles, according to the defense. The drills comes as tensions between Pakistan and India as regional arch rivalry remains elevated following the deadly attack in India's Jammu and Kashmir area. It says in a statement on Saturday, Pakistan Armed Forces announced that the launch carried out early in the day was aimed to ensure the operational readiness and troops for validation key technical preliminaries. It says including the missile advance systems and the enhanced more mobility features. Yeah. So Revelations, I'm gonna get into Joel the third chapter. So that's some more and more building up to the third world's war. Yeah, this is Joel chapter 3, verse 9. It says, plainly this among the Gentiles will build war. Wake up the mighty man, and all the men of war draw near and let them come up. Right, so we're gonna be seeing these armies of nations beating up against one another. And we're gonna see the alliance between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea going against the Western countries and going against the Israel Defense Force and the United States armies. Despite the fact, like I mentioned again, they've been having nuclear talks, which is still going to have these nuclear escalations are heating up between these nations. And that's only going to build up over there in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, over there in Western Asia. That's only going to build up to the World War III, which we see increasing significant signs of that on an everyday basis. Hey, the Wadi Habash and Asha. Joel chapter 3, verse 10, the last scripture that I'm closing out. It says, beat your plowshares and swords and pointing hooks into spears and let the weak stand strong. Right, let the weak stand strong. Hey, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Through the Spirit, power, grace, and mercy, Yahweh Yahshua. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Prophet Bash. And the Heavenly Father, the true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, and the name of Mashiach Habashai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashwa Lashwa tongue. Not say Barak to the elders and apostles for Akim Aqua. Until next time, I would say Kum Yasharala and the Ball. Shalom.